Welcome to my reflection for Project 3. This is on visual style, Part 1. My initial inspiration came from the singing ice sound effect that stood out to me the most, and it carried a trickling echo that made the entire space feel vast, dark, and hollow. From this feeling, I knew I wanted to create a visual environment that captured the same sense of largeness, yet emptiness, but I found myself in between choosing an outer space or water environment. Ultimately, I was drawn to the concept of tidal waves and tsunamis, as they embody the powerful duality of water. Water can appear completely calm and still, yet when disturbed, transforms into something that is uncontrollable. This symbolism translates naturally into my soundtrack, as the louder sounds, such as the polar bear growl and ice skate stop, can be described as unsettling, but simultaneously grounded by the consistent rhythm of ocean waves and water droplets. There is a largely, strangely calming momentum, much like a tsunami, and in terms of imagery, this is a large reason for why I wanted to recreate the texture of water ripples, as they carry an inherent sense of continuous movement. For the color palette, I wanted the motion graphic to evoke the feeling of watching the ocean at night, so I leaned into blacks and deep blues to maintain this atmosphere. Before landing into this direction, I explored multiple visual styles. For a static piece, I considered drawing the perspective of being in outer space that felt utopic and surreal. For a motion graphic, I experimented with other texture ideas like particles, water, color, and gradients that could create a burst in movement to represent the bubbly popping sound of the singing ice effect. In the end, the tidal wave concept felt the most meaningful and cohesive choice to represent the multiple emotions and overlay of sounds. This is Part 2, Integration with Soundtrack. My initial instinct was to visually represent the specific audio elements individually, such as the singing ice, the ice skate, and the polar bear growl, to allow each sound to have its own distinct moment. For example, since the singing ice effect is a sequence of airy popping sounds, I wanted to create a watercolor textured burst. However, after experimenting with this approach, I found that isolating these elements would actually distract the user from the ocean waves, which are importantly the grounding force for the entire soundtrack. This presented one of my biggest challenges, as the 6 overlapping sounds made it difficult to distinguish individual elements and determine what deserved visual priority. To address this, I used Adobe Audition to break down the audio into smaller sections, isolating and identifying each sound layer for its own. Through this process of experimentation, I realized what made the soundtrack emotionally effective was the combination of all the sounds together. The layering created an eerie yet calming tension that I wanted to visualize. I shifted my approach to synchronizing the visual with the soundtrack as a whole, and from there I landed on an ocean wave that continuously moves in and out of screen but directly links to the audio's amplitude. This means the wave physically reacts in shaking, swelling, and contracting ways to respond to the high and lows of the pitch across the soundtrack. The reactivity allowed for every sound to still have its own visual presence while representing a collective energy. Part 3, this is audience impact. Thinking about the potential impact of my visualization on an audience, I anticipate that viewers will experience opposing emotions, which is what makes it successful. For some viewers, viewing a dark ocean can inherently be uncomfortable and evoke feelings of vulnerability. Comparably, for others, the ocean can be deeply familiar and a calming space associated with safety. These conflicting reactions actually represent the intention behind the project, which is built upon the idea that two truths can exist simultaneously. As the abstract ripples moves in and out of the screen and reveals a dark image of a tide slowly becoming aggressive along the audio, it shows that water can be both beautiful and dangerous, or both soothing and threatening. The feedback and insights I gathered helped me make design decisions that would connect with the viewer as much as possible. Many who listened to the soundtrack described it to be alien-like or supernatural, which pushed me away from creating something that felt overly literal. Rather than trying to recreate a realistic ocean scene, I leaned into abstraction by taking the motion, texture, and color qualities of water to use as an expressive tool. This helped me trust the emotional tension of the soundtrack over the visual elements that would make it successful.